Hello YouTubers, welcome to Microsoft Intune Training Series Part 7. This is the last series and we're going to learn within this series about complete autopilot for Windows. Windows Autopilot we will be learning like user driven and the white glove, or you call it as a pre-provisioning, and we're going to learn in depth of autopilot. There's nothing we will left over, and also we will be learning about the hybrid Active Directory join with autopilot concepts with the on-premises network, and also we will be working with PowerBi reports and monitoring and the reporting with Microsoft Intune, and also we will be working with the troubleshooting for Intune specific, as well as the common support cases that how you could raise with Microsoft. We will be working entire this video more about Microsoft Intune, and this is the last lecture of the Intune series, and followed by this you could go through the designing concepts that we are gonna learn by going into the tinyurl.com/Intune design, which we have as a link within this short video as a description. And that being said, let's jump into the concept. Okay, we are talking about the autopilot. Okay, so what exactly autopilot? Autopilot is the mechanism which can help you to automate the OV experience. Along with that, the operating system deployment specific and some of the customizations can be done. Let me put it in the other way also. So this autopilot itself is technology, as we discussed earlier or in the beginning also. This is a technology, meaning this can integrate with Microsoft Intune, also with the Microsoft Store for Business is there. Inside that also you can also integrate with config.mgr or the endpoint config.mgr. So with these three of the tools, autopilot can integrate, and autopilot as a technology it can work. Let's understand what exactly autopilot. Before we understand autopilot, let's try to simulate current situation. Let's say if you are trying to place an order to your from OEM vendor or reseller for hardwares. Let's say there is a normally 3 years to 5 years the business life cycle for any hardware, right? So that hardware we wanted to replace with a new hardware models. In that situation, we actually place an order with our OEM vendor, we call it, or directly, or maybe with a partner or a reseller. We do this either with a partner or reseller. So what would happen? They would actually fulfill our order in terms of delivering the hardware along with the operating system also will be installed. But what we are currently doing is we will take that machine and we use our SCCM to format and deploy our custom image. Okay, there's a golden image or whatever you call it. So we standardize our uh, standard operating environment, or SOE we call it. So that standard SOE we deploy on this machine, and then along with that, if the user belongs to some XYZ department or maybe some business applications that are mandatory, for example Office 365 example, so such things will get automatically deployed to the user with the help of SCCM. So what is happening in this situation is uh, there is an operating system deployment team is involved, there's a custom imaging is there, there's application testing is there definitely. So there are a lot of cost is involved. In other way, for a business, the cost is involved here. Now how can we avoid this cost? That's where autopilot started. So why can't we use the existing machine that is shipped by the OEM vendor or reseller to us? Can we use the same machine as it is and bring that machine to our standard environment, so that we are no need to worry about the drivers part even, because the drivers also OEM vendor he's already sending or shipping, and also the operating system he is shipping. All we have to do is we have to actually deploy that custom settings or the applications so that the user can use it. So this is where autopilot comes into the picture. So for this, I hope everybody knows that OOB, what is OOB experience? OOB stands for out of box meaning like regional settings or keyboard settings. All of that we need to manually select, right, during the installation of Windows 10. So that experience can be fully automated with the help of Autopilot with something called a profile actually. So there's a Autopilot profile. With the help, we can automate these things. Okay, now what is the experience that we are giving to the end user? We're giving for the end user a self-service experience, meaning when he start the machine, okay, the Uber experience will be there, or you can suppress, but it will directly may welcome, hey Chris, as a user, or welcome to your company name. It can say that information, and then it will start um, it will start deploying the application so that the device can be a business ready state. Let's say after a few days, the user left, or maybe we wanted to reprovision to the same state. You can do that with the help of maybe autopilot reset, or maybe reprovision options are available. With that, we can do it. So these are the workflow kind of thing, the high level steps that I wanted to explain about the autopilot. Now we will go with the slide wise. What are the options we have, and where all we can integrate all of that stuff. But at this point of time, um, any questions within this life cycle? I just wanted you all to get the high level understanding. I'm not looking for the low level at this point of time, just a high level. Why we are doing? We are just trying to avoid the operating system building or OS deployment. We just wanted to avoid that. So I'll also try to put it another like simple. We order some devices, like 1,000 devices we ordered from Dell or Lenovo, right? So these 1,000 devices will ship with the some default operating system. Let's say if they ship even with the home edition or whatever the edition, okay, what we'll do is with the help of Autopilot, we will convert that image as it is without formatting. Basically, we are not formatting. We'll convert that entire system to a business ready state. So what is happening here is in the past, we used to deploy SCCM. With SCCM, we used to do the PXE deployment or whatever the model you used to do. And then you used to um, format this machine and redeploy your OS image along with the application and custom settings, right? Now this process can be taken out. So we can readily use these machines as it is, and we can use the autopilot deployment method to deploy applications and the settings that we wanted. Okay, this way it saves a lot of time and cost. Okay, and this autopilot technology completely cloud-based solution. So you don't need to have any server. Let's say if a user received, our partner has delivered to a user, or you shipped with the help of some delivery FedEx kind of thing to an end user. All he have to do is he has to select the keyboard language or whatever it is. That also can be automated, and then he has to enter his username and password. The system will be in a ready state so that the user can automatically use it. Okay, I'll just try to explain from here the slide also. So basically, with the autopilot, you can also join the machines only to the Azure cloud, okay? Or you can join the machine to your on-premises Active Directory, your on-premises AD, as well as to your Azure AD also you can do it. Now I'm talking about the domain join. Earlier, I was talking about just the high level view. Now, this autopilot can give a solution for your on-premises Active Directory. Also, it can join to your Azure AAD, meaning you can definitely manage from MEM console or your Intune console, right? It can automatically enroll your devices. That's what I'm trying to say here. And during this process, you have an option whether the user should be a local admin or a normal user account who can associate with this user with this device. That option is also available, that can be configured in a profile. What is a profile? Is a profile is a consists of some settings. Okay, what kind of settings? Let's say a regional settings, you want to skip it, or privacy settings. All these can be skipped or can be selected, okay, during the installation phase of Windows 10. Okay, now I wanted to take it to the next level of high level explanation for Autopilot, my friends. So now you placed an order for 1000 machines actually. So these machines, what you have done, you're provisioning for Autopilot. Good. But how you're provisioning? So you need to check with your OEM vendor or a partner or your reseller to get this 1000 devices hardware hash. Okay, I'm just extending the technology a little bit increasing the concepts also. So here something called a hardware hash will be there. What is the hardware hash? It's a unique thing for every machine. The value will be a unique thing. Okay, so what it consists, say, let's say now think practically, this is a company A. Okay, so what you have done, these 1000 machines, how they are going to build? You said a device shipped to end user. How this device knows only join to your on-premises Active Directory called a domain, or deploy your only application, or say, hey, Chris, how it can call. So there needs to be some integration to be done from the hardware layer, right? That's nothing but a hardware hash. So it's a value that we will actually request our OEM vendor or reseller to share with us, so that during the shipment they also give this information. And what we do, we simply we simply import this hardware hash file to our Autopilot server, so that these devices actually belongs to us then. And later point, you can pick any device. Example, there's a good configuration of 32 GB with GPUs that should go to AutoCAD team. Example. So what you can do, you can associate that hardware ID with a user who is part of AutoCAD. You can do that. So when the user wants to deploy, so if hardware hash is matching to A and the user is assigned for AutoCAD applications, all the AutoCAD applications gets deployed. Also the machine assigned to that specific user, whoever it is. Okay, so there are two steps within this what I have explained. One is the vendor has to ship the hardware hash file. If he is not doing, then you can also do. That's what we are going to do it in a demo. But in general, they will share with you the hardware file. So whom should I contact? You should actually, when you place the order, you should tell them that, hey, we are going for Autopilot deployment, please share the hardware hash file. So they are going to share it. Okay, this is the option one for hardware hash file sharing. There's another option also there, my friend, that you can, if the you normally place all the time hardware hardware life cycle or hardwares from a specific vendor, you can grant the access to your Autopilot server. It's not Intune actually. You can also configure this permission on Microsoft Store for Business. Okay, there they can import the we can grant explicitly permission to import the hardware hash file. Instead of sending to you as an email, they can simply uh, upload the hardware hash file to Microsoft Store for Business. Now I'll go further level. Uh, so maybe now for our demo, we are not going to actually place an order with our partner or reseller. We have some kind of PowerShell commands that can be executed and take a hardware hash from any live machine, and then we can import to our Autopilot server, and the rest of the steps remain same. There will not be any problem. There are types of autopilots. So people say that 1 to 4 different options are there. I'll say these are options. I use a word called options, but the profile configuration, we earlier told about the profile configuration, right? That is only 2 types. One is, yeah, no, user driven. I'll tell you what is user driven, meaning a user have to enter his user ID, password. He has to select some things, and then it gets deployed. This is called user driven. Other option also, that's self-deploying, meaning a kiosk device, definitely there will not be any user, so it itself gets deployed and the application gets launched. For a kiosk deployment, we rarely use this method. Okay, so what type of autopilot options are there? If somebody asks, yeah, it's just the user driven and the self-deploying mode. Okay, I did also mention here number 2 and number 3, right? These are, so number 2, if I read it, pre-provisioning option. Pre-provisioning means the required applications or some kind of configuration will be fully loaded and give it to the end user. That's called pre-provision. I'm going to explain, I'm going to demonstrate that one more time. This is not the end of your slide. You have furthermore slides for each and every option. Okay, just wanted to explain here within this slide few options. We have autopilot with self-deploying mode, okay, and user-driven mode, okay. And if you just expand this user-driven mode, you have some options called pre-provisioning and autopilot for existing, or maybe this is another option. Okay, you have, let's say. So let me explain in a short one line. This is for a user to give the machine very similar to our SCCM. So with the SCCM, what will happen? We will do the operating system deployment. The machine will be fully ready state for the end user. So when he log in, all applications will be there. That's called fully ready state, right? So that is the state. If you want with the autopilot, then use the pre-provision option. Okay, meaning if you don't use this option, what will happen is the device gets joined to Azure AD or to your on-premises AD, but applications are not loaded. Applications will come once a user login. It takes maybe 10-15 minutes, and then the applications will come in a normal mode. Okay, if you don't want this to happen, you have to go for pre-provisioning. If anybody is not getting it, I'm gonna show this demo. I'm gonna explain one more time also in the next slide maybe. Okay, because the learning, see, the style of learning should be in this way. You shouldn't go to the order. The order first is you should go here, and then if you want to learn, you can also learn this, but this is optional. But first learn user driven, then expand to option 2, and then learn expand option 3. This is how you should go and learn the concepts. You can't directly go to the option 2 or option 4. It will not be a good choice to learn if you're a beginner basically. Okay, so the first thing we will be learning user driven mode. This is for traditional users. Okay, so let's move to the user driven, okay, with few options. Okay, if you're not remembering option 1 to 3, that's okay for now. Okay, that's really okay for now. At this stage, by end of the today's session, you will definitely remember all of these names. Okay, but try to remember at least user driven mode, which I'm going to explain now. Okay, what is the user driven mode? User driven mode is the machine, when it shift, user have to enter his username and password. Okay, and then once it is entered, the device will, on this device, the user gets logged in, and then required applications will come based on your internet connectivity speed from Intune. It will slowly come up all the settings and policies. Rest of the things will come slowly, meaning there is a delay for the user to use the application. Let's say the user logged in, but there will not be Outlook application. He can't use it. He's not a productive on immediate basis. If you use the user driven, sorry, this is a self deployment. Okay, self deployment is I didn't explain for self deployment. Whatever I have explained is for the user driven, this concept. Self deployment is just the device will be there, it gets automatically deployed and single user will be associated, and from there on it works. For this, additional concept should be applied. So we'll just skip this, but this should actually go to Yeah, user driven. So the concept which I'm trying to explain is the first one is this. So what happens? User will, during the autopilot phase, he will enter user ID and password. Of course, he may select the regional language or keyboard kind of things based on our profile settings. And then the required applications, for example, Outlook will not be available on an immediate basis because the Outlook or whatever the application you deployed will come from your MDM server or your Intune slowly based on your internet connectivity speed. This is called user driven. Okay, so now what is the behavior it will be? For this, uh, choose a language, okay, and keyboard options. User can connect to wireless or wide network access, okay, and user have to mention his user ID and password. Okay, so where all this can work? This can work starting from 1809 or later. Windows 10 builds can work. So I hope you understood at least the user driven mode little bit. Okay, let me actually talk about some other concepts which are related to the autopilot now. Okay, so we talked about the this four different options. Out of that, the first learning one should be always start with the user driven, then go for this and go for this. Okay, so now I'll be going to, these are the normal user driven mode options. If it is a hybrid mode, just to give you a hybrid mode environment, you need to do few additional configurations called Intune connected to be installed on your one of the server, and that machine to be granted some kind of permissions on the OUs so that the machine can join to that specific OU, which we will be doing it. Uh, but just wanted to tell you here, there's a different options all there. Okay, now there's something called optional setting called the ESP or your enrollment status page. We're gonna work on that. I'll be showing that options also. Okay, so you might come up with what kind of options or hardware hash, what it contains. It basically contains your manufacturer model serial number, hard drive serial number kind of thing. It will be there. Okay, and this can be generated with the help of these 4-line PowerShell commands on any of the machine. Okay, so now I'll be trying to explain from the console point of view, my friends. Okay, so from where do we start working on the autopilot? The first thing, we'll just go to the devices. Okay, go to your Windows device because it's a autopilot for only Windows devices. Then click on Windows enrollment. We actually worked on the general but not on the autopilot program, right? So here just wanted to explain few things. This is called ESP. Okay, what is the importance of the ESP? ESP is basically when it is uh, autopilot is going on. Okay, this on the screen, the autopilot screen should stay there for some time. Example, because maybe example autopilot got failed, so user have to collect the logs. If you want to give that option for the end user, we need to enable ESP option. So there is an option to collect the logs within this page, or there is some applications are getting, or some mandatory applications should be installed, then only allow the user. In the past, I told that if you remember, the user have to get the applications once he log in, like Outlook. He's not immediate productive, but we wanted to give him Office only to be installed first. Later point all the remaining applications. Maybe we can allow, maybe user can do the work. He can start working with Outlook and other applications, but later point maybe optional settings like a 7-zip or maybe some other application may come. So if you want to do such kind of customization, then you need to have the ESP. So ESP is the front end page. So this has few of the bugs also. There could be two different bugs that has been already fixed with the latest Intune releases. Okay, I use a word called now Intune latest release. So what exactly a release is, if you just go to the tenant administration, this is where the service release will be there. Every month they come up with a new release. So you can just click on this and find out what is the latest release consist. And if you see here, there are total 4 different ways they are gonna release the services, like day one, Asia Pacific, EU, then NA, and for government. So these are the latest changes that are happen on this June month. So in the July month, we are July, it's already 5th got released with these things. Okay, now let's go to the Autopilot one more time. Windows. We try to explain about ESP. We are going to create the ESP also. I'm going to show you. I just try to explain what is ESP only. Okay, now the profile. So earlier we talked about 4 different options that you can configure, right? So that options are consistent with option 1 and option 2, or you call it as a 4, whatever it is. One is a self-deploying, other one is a user-driven, right? So these things can be created under this profile. Okay, now I also talked about you are placing some devices order from a Dell or Lenovo, right? They are gonna give you the hardware hash file. So that hash file can be imported here. Okay, and what if you have the on-premises Active Directory and you wanted to join these machines with the help of Autopilot profile with this option 3 or 4 or 2 things. In case if you want to do that, then you need to install this connector on one of your AD specific machine where you have a AD connector or maybe a member server, and that server should have some kind of permissions on your OU structure, so that on that OU these devices can join. Okay, so I try to explain the ESP. I try to explain about the profiles. Profile consists of option 1 to 4. Okay, but the types of the profiles are 2 only. Okay, and the devices, this is where the hardware hash file can be imported, and here the connector for your on-premises. Now let's have a look on how this integration will work actually, because here I explain these, but how this is going to work really. So first thing, these devices, once you import it, it doesn't mean that it's going to actually use these profiles. Okay, you have to make a association or a target these devices with these profiles, any of these profile configuration. For that, you need to create a group. Okay, let's say there's a group called all Intune Pilot example, and that group will be associated with this profiles, right? And these devices will part of that group. Okay, and if you want to push some additional applications, you can publish that applications to this group. Okay, so what is the criticality or the logic that we are using is groups. Now coming back to the uh, key point here, my friends, the group is not a general group. This is a special type of group. Reason being, you imported 1000 devices or maybe 1000 devices from hardware vendor hash file. So this hash file does not have any proper machine, right? There's no proper machine name kind of thing. So now how this group can automatically or dynamically pull up these 1000 machines to be part of this group. So if this entire story works if a group creation is successful, right? So the group should be properly created with the help of, if any machine that is matching with these hardware hashes, then only part of this group. Something like that you should create. For that, Microsoft has come up with a group logics. Either you can create a group based on order ID, the order ID which you have, or some a generic one called jet TGI. Let me show you the document. Okay, so this is the general document that we would uh, create. Okay, I think I didn't. Let me open that. Where is this article? Normal. Okay. So this is the group. So you go to any company, they would be using only these type of groups. There were three different type. One is uh, with the JTD ID, other one is the your purchase order, and other one is order ID. So any of these are the static groups given by Microsoft. We simply have to use any of these group method to create a dynamic group. So what happens? Let me explain the logic behind for this group. So if you see here, anyway the order ID and the purchase order that consists a number, and but here if you look at device dot physical IDs, okay, that is for any hardware, it will consist of JTD ID. Okay, that is the an attribute will consist for any computer object. Okay, so from SCCM there's something called unknown computer collection, right? So what is uh, unknown devices or unknown devices collection, which is nothing but the device that was never known to your SCCM, we consider as the unknown device, right? Similarly here, if a brand new machine that was never communicated with Autopilot server, then that consists of JTD ID, or the OEM vendor whenever they ship it, it's brand new. It was never part of your AD or never part of anywhere, right? That consists of JTD ID. It's like a hardware ID. So that ID, if it is there, that can be treated as the dynamic collection. Okay, so the first step was definitely to create the group, because that's a dependency. So let me create a group first, okay, by copying this value. Okay, I'll just go to groups, a security group, meaning permissions we will be granting here. Dynamic device query, and click on edit. So this is the value I pasted. Okay, click on save. If the query is correct, it will save. Otherwise, we could have get the error. Okay, so now poly devices. So now the group has been created. Okay, now the first step is done. Let's actually go to our profiles and try to create. Okay, so the first step is we have already created. Okay, I have already a profile. I'm not going to use this test profile. Okay, I'll tell you, why I have created that later point. But how do you create is just click on create a profile. You have it for HoloLens, which is costly, so we can't do that anyway. For Windows PCs, you can do this. And now if I just go to the options that we try to learn here, the four different options, right, my friends? So out of these four, the autopilot for existing devices, which I didn't talk much, right? So what exactly is this is nothing but, what if you want to use your autopilot with the help of SCCM, then this is the right concept. Okay, so how can you do this? Is simply toggling this no to AS. I was talking about convert all existing devices. If I choose this, the option 3 becomes our objective. Whatever we wanted to learn, this is simply drag and drop. But I'm not going to go there, but I have just shown you where it is. Okay, now you can give here, for example, I'm just giving driven. Okay, Yeah, I'll just give it as a user driven. So this is the option I was just wanted to explain, but the option is available here. Autopilot for existing devices can be toggled from here. That's what I wanted to explain. We'll come to this later point. Okay, so click on next. Now you have a bunch of options here. So out of these, the first one is deployment mode. So we have total 4 options, but the deployment mode is, if you see here, ending with only 2. That's option 1 and option 4, right? So if you look at here, deployment mode, user driven and self-deploying. Okay, if I choose self-deploying, it is not giving me for hybrid ADjoin. It's just the Azure ADjoin with a lot of option has been automatically disabled. Okay, and for this you need to configure some additional settings also, okay, from your configuration profile. Okay, it's not just it's gonna work, it has to, basically it's a kiosk device, right? Meaning you have to enable on Windows 10 kiosk mode. So for that you need to go back to your configuration profile and do that kiosk, sorry, not here, yeah, here you have to configure kiosk mode options to be enabled for self-deploying mode, okay, which we are not going to do it in this demo. We'll be doing user driven. This is a normal user driven. Let's see, join to Azure AD. So this is going to be Azure AD, the first step, joining, meaning it's not hybrid AD, meaning if you take hybrid AD, it's going to be on premises also as well as Azure AD. Now Microsoft terms, licensing terms, I can show or hide. Okay, it's up to you what you wanted to configure. Okay, so even privacy settings also, which is the user will once it is, it will prompt like can I use your user's location and the device location and advertisement IDs. All of that consists of the privacy settings. So if you want to know not to show, you can hide it. Okay, and hide the change account. So here, if you want to change the account, you can hide this option. User account type is, this is the important one. Maybe if your company does not allow the user to use administrative account, then we can put as a standard. So the user becomes as a standard. Okay, there's no local admin. So if you remember, how we manage that device. Yeah, if you remember, this is where actually we configure, right? We configure here and the devices, the additional local administrator option. This is where you can configure from an Azure AD point of view. That's why this option is there for us. So now if you want to try WhiteGlove, okay, we didn't talk about WhiteGlove, but we talked about something called pre-provisioning. So this name pre-provisioning is recently renamed. In the past we used to call as a WhiteGlove. Okay, so in Microsoft documentation, WhiteGlove is still refers sometimes in the documentation. Even if you see here, this is also still WhiteGlove, but actual name is now pre-provisioning. Okay, so whenever you get as a WhiteGlove, please consider that as pre-provisioning, but sooner or later it will be named with only pre-provisioning, including this name also will change for sure one or other day, because the documentation is nowhere now. WhiteGlove is almost, they are taken out from the documentation. They're just updating with the pre-provisioning. Okay, so what is a WhiteGlove? So we'll talk WhiteGlove later point. First, experience the user driven. Okay, then the problems with the user driven I'm going to show you. Later point we can talk about the WhiteGlove. Okay, because if I start explaining this, you will have maybe 10 to 15 questions. Okay, now regional language, this is default with the system setting, keyboard, all of that. Now you also have the options. For example, a computer name can be set to some standard. Let's say I want my company has given with a naming standard. Okay, example, It starts with your country code and region, and then maybe some other name should come automatically. Okay, in that situation you can actually use the name templates. Okay, so if I just choose yes here, name template, it will give you the options. So here um, random with colon is given. So your company name, for example, if I give as my company name as INHYD, example India, Hyderabad, and then random number, it will start from 1 to any number. Okay, so that's what X stands here. Um, some number, randomly it will generate the number. So this is a profile I can create. Click on next. So later point I can assign this profile to the users or the group that we have just created. So in this case, the group we just created all autopilot. So somebody has a different question. Can I target to co-management, all of that? But if you think about it, what is this group? This group consists of JTDI values. Okay, that's where we are targeting the machine. So I can click on next and create. So now the profile gets created. So the profile got user driven driver. Okay, user driven. So I didn't give it a proper name. Let me go to the properties. We can edit that. Okay, review and save. So this is the autopilot profile settings that we have. And if you see here, including grouping is not yet coming up. Just we have to just wait for a few minutes because the assignment is no. If I do one more time, maybe a refresh, it will come up. Till now, so far clear. We'll go to the devices to get the device name. Okay, so how can we get the device? So from my devices, I have already imported one device. Just leave this for now, but you need to import. So for importing, it is actually asking a CSV format file, okay, which we don't have now. We have to get it from a hardware vendor, right? So normally, definitely we don't have from a hardware vendor. In that situation, we can use some of the PowerShell commands to get it. Okay, so this is where you can use the commands. So I'll show you. This is the PowerShell command, can be used on any machine that is currently has a Windows 10, okay, or maybe currently has some operating system with a PowerShell can work. Then you can execute this. Then it's gonna actually, what it is doing is it is basically installing some script from PS Gallery, okay, and it will create a file called autopilot HWID in a C:\WHID directory. Okay, so we'll first start one computer which I have here. This is a computer name I have, but I just created for normal purpose. We can open up a PowerShell, maybe PowerShell, run as administrator. I'll just go to the previous article, and before that we'll expand the font size so that it is visible to you all. So I'm just copying these. So if you want me to explain, I'll explain one by one. So the first one is it is actually creating the C in a C directory like a MD. This is a new item. There's nothing but a directory it's going to create called hardware ID. It has changed the directory to hardware ID, HWID. It's just changed. Now set execution policy to unrestricted anyway, because it's going to use some other repositories. So that's why we are setting. Post to this, we are gonna format the machine, or we might go to the reset option. Okay, let's click on EA. So I'll just give here. Okay, and next is it is installing the Windows Autopilot information from a PS galleries. It's going to show that also. I'll just give as yes. I hope everybody is clear why we are executing this script. Or shall I explain why we are doing? Because we are not able to place an order from a vendor, definitely. So we are using the simple script to get a similar hardware file. Now the file has been created with the serial number of this. So this is a computer serial number. It's a lengthy number. Okay, let's go to this one, right? So this is the file got created. Now I'll just rename this to maybe 17th. Yeah, I'll just give 17, and then I'll just copy this file somewhere. I'll paste it on my desktop. Let me open this file and show you how it looks like. The simple hash, hardware hash. This is the serial number, Windows product ID, hardware hash. This is a simple 3-column. It has produced this entire value, which we cannot definitely read it. Okay, so this file we will import. How do we import? We'll simply go here, import. What if that machine has that file has more machines? 17th, right? So 17. This import, it's going to import it. Here it is in importing, and for your information, since most of you are quite new, this takes actually 15 minutes anyway. If some errors are there, then you can do a sync, but you cannot frequently sync also, because we are actually sitting on a Windows Autopilot server for Microsoft. It's not just for your tenant, it is for all over for every company, right? So this Autopilot server, so when you're importing, the importing is going to your Autopilot server, not just to Microsoft server. So they have a limitations of 15 minutes. Sometimes if you delete it also, it doesn't go. You have to wait. So for this, it takes some time, definitely. So now we just imported, which is still going on. It might take anywhere from 15 minutes to 30 minutes time. Okay, and once it is imported, you will have here the serial number, a lengthy serial number, because this device has a very lengthy serial number since it's a virtual machine. Okay, here, if it is a real, if I just close here, if it is a real machine like this, it will be coming up. Getting me? So like, profile is assigned, all of that. So for this, actually, I have already imported and made it ready for you, so that this 15 minutes plus 15 or whatever it is, once you, what would happen is, once you import, it has to assign the profile. Let me explain that also for you. So what would happen? This device should associate it with this profile. How it would happen? In the backend, this device will part of a AD group that we created, right? The dynamic AD group. And then this profile also has a target of that dynamic AD group. So it will check it in the backend, and this device, whatever you importing now, will assign this profile. So it's 3 minutes. It may take up to 15 minutes time. So once you import, it will actually go and show as a updating. Once the device is imported, it will start updating. Post to that, it gets deployed. I mean, deployment, it is assigned, meaning you can, ready for the deployment. The device is this, and it is trying to update. So let's see what is that it is updating. It is updating a profile name. So it is not at assign, it is trying to assign to user driven. Okay, but if you see this machine, the physical machine, it is already assigned state called user driven profile. Okay, so it has to wait the status to updating to assigned state. Okay, in the meantime, we can talk about the enrollment status page. Okay, let's go here. So creating enrollment status page, you will have a normally by default only this one, which consists of the settings like this. I'll show you. It will be like this actually. Okay, the enrollment status page appears during the initial device setup. First, user logon. Okay, you can actually here configure in such a way with these options. Okay, like show app profile configuration, the application profile configuration. You can show the status. If you don't show, the autopilot profile or the status doesn't show basically. So it will be, it just goes like us. Self-driven kind of thing. You don't see that experience of autopilot. So we will configure this yes, and this is where the errors, in case of any errors, it can wait till 60 minutes if any specific application is taking a larger time than that specific application installation time. It can wait till 60 minutes. Post to that, it will be an error, and you get this as the notification saying, hey, you have exceeded the limit, and please talk to your IT support for the further help. And coming back to the allow users to collect the logs, so this is where you can collect the logs if you want it, or if you want to allow the end users to collect. So there is a button will be there, so they can connect any of the USB key to export that logs with this option. This is Woob experience. So this is basically a status page which will come up when you're trying to do the autopilot, so that it's like a gate kind of thing where it gives you some more options from the end user point of view when he is trying to do something. For example, do you want to see the progress? If you say by default no, it doesn't show anything. By this is by default configuration, but we would actually enable this so that the WhiteGlove or pre-provisioning will work. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Okay, and that's why we need to configure ESP for one other reason. And once we configure this, the errors, let's say if an application is taking more than 60 minutes to install, then we can give here 60 minutes time. That's a maximum. After that, it will say that exceeded the time, and we can allow the users to collect the log file and allow the OOB experience, show the OOB experience. Uh, and also users can, if something goes wrong, they can, do the reset if you want to allow them, or if you want to allow the users, even though the devices fail, but still you wanted to allow the user to use it, you can toggle. And you can block some of the applications. That example, you're trying to deploy 10 applications. So out of this 10 applications, let's say I wanted Office is mandatory, and maybe Teams also mandatory for end users. So let first install these two and wait till these two applications to get installed. Later part, give this machine so that the user can log in, and he will start using maybe the PC with the help of Teams or some Office or some other activities he will be performing. In the meantime, in the backend, maybe like a GoToMeeting application or some other applications gets delivered when the user logged in state. Okay, so for this, you can actually uh, give the explicitly only few applications, or let's say 10 applications should install. You can also do in a such a way that. So for us, for example, if you want to configure here, let's say selected applications, you can select some of the applications. Like I wanted to toolkit to be installed, Office to be installed. These are mandatory applications example. You can define it. Okay, this is the ESP. So in our case, I actually started explaining on the default one. Okay, let me close this page. So on a default one, I had already configured a settings like this without the application configuration. So I wanted to show without the application configuration as a first step. Later point with another step, I wanted to show uh, with only explicitly some applications, and then show, because that is needed for the white glove purpose. I will be showing you that. Okay, or maybe I can say just the one application if you want, but that's okay. We'll do that demo later, but we'll go with the default with the step by step. Okay, this is my configuration. In case if you want to customize and assign for specific users, you can create the same configuration. For example, test example, and here the settings will be there. The same setting you can apply. For example, you just shown some group name, right? Similarly, you can assign that for Office Lite dynamic group. This specific setting can be applied, so that these settings will be applied to that specific devices. Like that, you can configure multiple ESPs also. That is also supported. So now let's go back to the that concludes the ESP specific. What we can do is we can create some of the custom configurations, but this is not really needed now. In the past, we used to create for configuration profiles. We used to create here, for example, this is the one configuration that you can see, which I just created. So here, this is what the values were given by Microsoft to skip the user status page or ESP if it is not working properly. We can skip this by setting up this kind of configuration. This was in the past we used to use it, but no need to use this ESP specific configuration. This is default, so you don't need to use such configurations to fix any ESP bugs as on date. Okay, if you use the latest, anyway it's a cloud service, so it's the latest, which we are going to demonstrate. Okay, if you see here, this profile also not applied. Okay, now let's go to devices and have a check on this device is in assigned state, and this is a device that we tried. So let me actually configure the machine to, let me pull this machine to Uber experience. So I have already taken a screenshot of this machine, so I'm just applying the previous snapshot so that the machine gets moved to previous state where it was in the Uber experience, like this. Okay, so in this phase I'm actually okay, before I just move here, I wanted to explain some other options also for you. Uh, if you see here, this is not assigned to any user. Okay, meaning if you have a user account, you can assign, meaning this machine will be dedicated to a specific user. If you don't assign, what will happen is user specific applications cannot get it if you're trying to do the um, pre-provisioning options. Okay, but let's assign and see how this looks like. So I'll just select the user. Okay, and sorry, assign a user to maybe a user called cool example. Okay, and now this button will come up here. If I just save it, it takes a minute or so. If I just click on here, now I should be able to see here as a cool, but still unassigned, meaning it's not yet synced. Let's see, still unassigned. So this takes some time. It says force sync. I can do a sync. If I try to do one more time sync, it will throw an error. Okay, so I have to just wait for a few more minutes. So now the sync is happened, completed in the backend, and the user account is cool. So what would happen is it will actually start welcoming, hey cool, please use your password. That's what we are expecting, and the applications will come once the user is logged in. So this is the machine. So I'll just go with a reset of this machine so that it will start from scratch. which I like to do it. Like so if you see here now, we have some important steps to do it, and then it does that configuration in the backend to check this hardware hash if it is exists in Autopilot server or not. It's just validating in the backend. So it just validated seems to be, and it is doing some restart. So think that this machine user got it received. So when he start the computer, this is how the experience is for the end user point of view. It's just doing here. What happens if we don't have internet? So at this phase, it will ask for Wi-Fi, but since I have connected to the LAN, it's not asking me to connect to Wi-Fi. And if you don't have internet connectivity, it doesn't work. And if you see here, hi cool, that's what it is coming. It's simply saying that hi cool, and it is welcoming with my company name. And then it's just asking for the only password. So the user ID also it has taken. How? Because we assign this user to cool. Getting me? Now, if I just quickly log in here, oh, what is the password? Give me a second. Really don't know. It's just logging in. And by the way, I didn't show you how the device looks like actually. What happens is when you import actually to the all devices, it will come up like this. See? Or this, the icon when you import it. Okay. So in this case, one of the machine, I think 33818 is the machine. So this is an autopilot profile. Okay, you can see here. So the device should come here under devices once it is registered. So it has to do all the checks in the backend and come back. This takes another 5 minutes, something like that. Let's say if you do not assign the user account to this device example, or maybe you imported maybe 500 devices and you definitely no need to assign them, right? So if you don't assign, what would happen is it will simply, so let's say if you don't assign, what would happen is it will ask for the username. Okay, it's for the username. So the user have to come here and enter the username. Earlier it said hi cool, please enter your password, right? So it doesn't say that hi cool, welcome to your organization, the company name that is here in this case PowerBi Logitech Intune Demo. That's what it's going to come up on the top. It will ask for the username and password. So that's where we are going to enter the user ID and password. So it's not 1,000 devices. You can't definitely assign each and every device. It's a hard.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just demonstrated two things here at once. Okay, this is done, device preparation. Sorry, it's my fault. Ready? It's asking for the pin and all of that. So this is the configuration actually coming from Windows Hello. So how this is coming is, one second, where did I configure this? Let me approve this. It's a Windows Hello, which needs to be approved. So this is basically here. And if I just go here, Windows Enrollment, Windows Hello is there. So this is also very similar to ESP. It is by default assigned for all users. So if you want to disable, what you can do is disable, and in the last option also will be there to disable. That would actually disable the Hello configuration in case if you don't want. Save. So this will not be prompted on any other machine. So we can move to the next topic. So what I'll do is I'll simply explain the process first. For pre-provisioning, or we call it as the WhiteGlove process. So I'm going to deep dive that WhiteGlove process, and then we will go for the demo on a physical machine. Let's say you ordered. So what is the problem in this case? The normal user-driven case, the major problem is when a user login, he will not have the applications readily available. So the applications comes once the user login. So it takes some time since it has to come from a cloud, right? So it takes some time. How can I ensure that this device also should be a complaint, at the same time applications also should be already available? So for that, there's something called a white glove. So if you think about white glove, what happens is the two hands gets changed. So the first thing is there is a build engineer team. There could be a dedicated team within your company. So what they do is they receive the hardwares and they do the autopilot, and later point they ship it to end user. Okay, so what they do in this build phase is something called white glove or pre-provisioning. So as the name suggested, pre-provisioning, all the required company standards will be enforced to the device along with the applications also. Okay, that's the pre-provisioning concept. So let's explain this process, what it consists. Okay, so what happens is you receive the device. So let me close this. I'm trying to explain the build engineer person uh, what he's going to do. He's going to do actually, he receives the device, a branded new machine he received. This has to be shipped to X user. Okay, what he'll do is he will start the machine into autopilot mode, and then he will press during the autopilot mode. There's a separate ESP page will be there, definitely. Okay, uh, in that when it goes to the autopilot phase, the Windows key will be pressed 5 times. So on your keyboard you have a Windows key, right? That will be pressed by your build engineer or autopilot engineer by 5 times. Then this will come up into a different phase. One is a package phase, other one would be the autopilot with the white glove option. Okay, so we normally select the second option, which will do the autopilot with the white glove option. So what will happen is this process I'm trying to explain now. Okay, so what will happen is we are going to demo all this, but just wanted to explain the process. This is very important because it will give you only few minutes time when we demo. That's why I wanted to explain first, and then we'll do the demo. So when we press 5 times the Windows key, okay, when he press that Windows key button, he'll get 3 steps. Out of that, the second step we will be choosing for the package to install or choose the provisioning mode. So that's option itself a provisioning mode. So that's nothing but the autopilot white glove. So once you choose that, it will come up with a screen. As soon as you selected this second option, it is coming up with a screen saying that this is a username, this is a profile name, that's Autopilot profile name, and your company name also will be displayed. This is our company name. So this company name, this profile name, and also the user. So in case if you assign to a user, let's say I did not assign to any of the user, then it won't show. Okay, so this is the normal, a page will come up. As I said, just a web page kind of thing, but there's no address bar. So it's a screen on a screen. You have a wallpaper, right? So on a wallpaper, it comes like this: the username and the profile name that you're going to use it, and the company name. That's it. And a small barcode also will be there. So what you can do, you can take a screenshot of this with your phone. Okay, example. Or if you're sure you're just trying to build only single machine, right? You're not building 1,000 machines, let's say. You're not building now 1,000 machines. I'll take the scenario later. But if you're building one machine, you simply what you do, you'll click on it. Okay, I'm pretty sure that this machine is going to be dedicated for this specific user. I know that I'm going to use this autopilot with WhiteGlove option profile. And then simply uh, uh, accept to proceed or continue button will be there in the down. So once you proceed that, what happens is the the steps which are happening on this machine, we just see that 3 steps, right? So the 3 steps will start, and then finally what will happen for the application state, it will take a lot of time definitely for install the all the applications. Once the applications are fully installed, and then you press 5 times this Windows key, then you get the options. You would be choosing the second option called provisioning option, and then a page will come up with saying that your profile name and the username, profile name, and the company name with a barcode also. If you take with your phone that barcode, it will give this information. Okay, and later point when you click on provision or continue option, let's say, then it will go to the next phase. With all the required application gets installed, then it gets also restarted, and then it will show another page similar to this page, but this time it will be with a green color. The background is with a complete green with the username and the, if it is assigned to a username, and the profile name and company name will be there. Okay, and then a normal button will be there in the down called reseal. So what exactly reseal? So if I if I tell you the entire story is related to the reseal. Reseal is nothing but you're actually uh, shutting down the machine in a reseal mode, meaning it's very similar to when you when I do, for example, a reseal. What happens is it goes to the shutdown, so the computer gets shut it down. Later point, the user, the end user, we ship this machine to end user. Example, you ship it to end user. What happened? End user will click on a power button, the physical power button he starts. Then it will ask for the keyboard or regional settings based on your uh, settings that are configured under profile. And then once that is configured, it will restart the computer and it will ask for only password. As soon as he enters the password, the applications and the configuration will be readily available. This entire process does not take much time for the end user. Okay, now few things here I wanted to explain in a red color now. So what if you don't get it here a green color? What is mean by green? Green means the device is ready for end user to ship it. How do you ship it? You actually take a photograph. Sorry. You would actually take a photograph of this screen with your phone, and then you would uh, yeah. So you would actually take a photograph of this entire screen, and maybe you attach to a or to the device, and you will ship it to the end user. Why? Why you actually take a photograph? Let's say if you're the build engineer, if you're trying to build maybe 100 machines, 100 different devices with maybe HP whatever 840 G3 model, all devices look same, but you don't know, which device is to go to where. You will definitely get confused. That's why this reseal, before you reseal, you take the photograph and take the print from your phone and then stick it to this device and ship it, so that you're sure that you're shipping this device to that dedicated user. Getting me? So that's the important thing. So in a high level, a build engineer will build the machine and he will reseal so that the machine goes to shutdown state, and you will ship the machine to the end user along with that barcode. If you don't, if you have thousands of devices, it's important to track. That's why we will ship that way. And the end user will receive the device and he will simply enter his user ID and password, or just the password in fact, and then the device will be in a ready state. Clear? Let's go to the further with the device mode. Okay, so we'll create one profile first. Okay, so I have already created a profile. Okay, here test profile. This is just a test. Okay, with the normal settings. Okay, you can see what I've done is this is almost the same scenario, except the WhiteGlove option has been taken here. I can go even choose as a standard. That's okay for me. The only difference why I have chosen administrator is because in case if I want to troubleshoot in any case, then I can choose this. So I'll just say this, and the format also same. Okay, save. Now for this user, it's not assigned to any of the devices. So let's actually assign to a device group, maybe. So in this case, I think all Intune Autopilot devices we can assign. But before I assign, actually, I have to take it out other devices. So in this case, the profile, I'll just take it out. I cannot have the same thing for two targets, right? It's a conflict thing. So I'll just take it out from here. This target. For the test one, I'll assign. That's it. We have done this now. So all we have to do is we have to wait for a few more minutes. So this time we can take a break maybe. So the current profile, this is the machine which I have to import. I did already import it with a physical hardware. So I have a physical machine. I have already imported with the similar steps. So this profile is currently assigned as the user profile. If you see here, assigning currently the status. Let's say if it is fully assigned, then we can do a quick demo. If you want, we have this test profile, which we are gonna try with the Windows Hello. For the device called, this is a real device. Okay, so I'm gonna switch to our old style of shooting the camera. Okay, so my apologies in case if I don't shoot properly. Okay, video. Oh, it's not very clear, I know, but if you see here, this is a laptop. Okay, so I got already installed with a USB stick Windows operating system. Now what I'm trying to do is I just paused after the partitioning, the first reboot I paused it, so I'm just continuing further. to close this wizard. So it will continue from here. Sorry. There's a slight delay. So it's just installing the Windows. Since it's not a virtual, we can't go back. So we should be very sure to do this testing. To the LAN cable, I like to always work with the LAN. So I've already connected a LAN cable. I have to just here press the 5 times the Windows button. Okay, I'm not at that. I'm not in that step because it's gonna come up the language, all of that settings. So now you see here, this is a page. I hope everybody see clearly. Okay, it's asking for the keyboard layout because in that profile I did configured, okay, to pass this or to show this page. Now what I'm doing is I'm pressing start button 5 times. Okay, 1 2 3 4 5. Immediately it is coming up with this options. Okay, so very important one I'm going to explain here. This is a provisioning package. A package means, like, Windows ADK, right? So with the Windows ADK you can customize the normal Windows image and then put that package in your USB or somewhere, and that will be deployed from here in case if you're trying to customize your image. But in normal, for autopilot provisioning mode, you would be using this. Okay, I'll be selecting this and I'll say continue button. Okay, the lag is no more, right? Now you're able to see the continue button, right? Is it clear? Zoom it no, like this. Yeah, if I handle with my hands, it doesn't look good actually. You see that, right? Now here the continue button. Just put it in my camera place so that it will go in a normal phase. Yeah, you see, right? Now I'm just clicking on continue button. So now a page will come, as I said, a kind of screenshot kind of thing with what is that user it got assigned. So we assign for cool the user ID and the deployment profile name and the domain, that's your organization name, all should come. So now what is happening is it's actually going with the backend with the help of internet. It's actually going to Autopilot server and it pulled. So for the first few seconds, this information was blank. Later point, it has pulled this information. Correct? If you noticed, you can see my company organization name and assigned to which user, and you have a barcode. In case if you have a barcode, if you scan it on my screen, this barcode, you get this information. Okay, now this is a profile name. What is this profile? This is a profile for Autopilot that we have done. Okay, so simply end user point of view, he don't do this step. Who's gonna do this? This is the build engineer who is gonna do it. We'll click on provision. Okay, so once it is success, you would get this instead of blue as a red. Success means green. If it is an error, this entire blue becomes as a red color if it is a failed, and this information will be shown with one additional option here: collect the log information. Does anybody know? Because except the user driven, remaining all of the setup needs the TPM 2.0, okay, and a physical machine. You can't test it on Hyper-V for your information. That's why I moved to, for this step, to the physical machine. I'll repeat, you cannot do any other scenario, including self-deployment mode. All of that cannot test on a virtual machine. Okay, you can only test it on a physical machine, except the user-driven with a normal default options that we just tested. I'll just click on provision. Now from here on, the steps remain same, my friends. The steps remain same. The time remains same. The machine gets rebooted, and then you get the green color with a reseal option where the username and the same information will be shown back to you again. And this is still going on, the installation, and you could see, I just tried zooming so that you could see, and the application got installed automatically and system getting restarted automatically. So once it is restarted again, it goes to the same page, autopilot profile page, and automatically, if you see here, now we are getting a green color with the profile name. This is the profile name which we are trying to do, and the company name and the time it has took, actually the time, and the user account. So, and also the background is in a green color, right? So this is the indicates that it is a success. And if you see here, print welcome letter and ship label, so this entire screen, whatever it is coming here, you can take a by a phone as a photo, and then uh, take a printout and stick on the laptop and ship it to the end user. That's what it is trying to say. So I hope the zoom part is clear. I'm sorry earlier it was difficult, but after zoom it looks good for you. So if you could scan this barcode also, it gets the same details for you with any of the barcode reader. And post to that, as soon as I click on reseal button here, the computer will go into a shutdown state automatically. And then, as it said, this entire screen you can take a photo and stick on this computer. You might be thinking about why should I take a photograph. Let's say if you are the build engineer and you have to build maybe 40 machines, can you guess for which user what is that laptop you're going to assign? You could send possibly you could send a wrong device for another user. Let's say if there's a Chris is expecting Chris laptop, you might ship it a Rob machine if you don't label it, because it all looks the same thing, right? It's difficult. That's why Microsoft gives this page, and you could take a printout and simply label it as soon as it's completed. So when you're back here after some time, and you could see here reseal and take the photograph, print, and then attach on the laptop, and then click on a reseal button. So as soon as you reseal, it's actually going to shut down state. So let me click on that reseal button. Yeah, I just pressed on that. So you see here the power is gone here, if you notice. So automatically power is over. I mean, it's not coming up power. So now what I have to do is I have to start the computer. Think that I'm the end user now, and what I'll do is I'll just switch on this laptop by pressing the power button as an end user, and automatically the computer started, and it is asking for me the keyboard layout. And as soon as I select it as whatever the keyboard layout I need, it will continue further. And the second layout, I don't want the second layout. In this case, 14th minute or somewhere, it is 16 now. So it's asking for the user's password to be entered. So whatever the password I enter here will be the password. So I'll just enter here. I don't know password. This is the biggest thing for me. So I'll just I enter the password now, clicking on next button. So if you see here, it is actually welcoming hi call, right? Enter the password. Correct? Yeah. Right? Yeah. So because the device got assigned. Okay, so I'll just enter the password. I'm clicking on the next now. Okay, I didn't enter the password now, just entered and clicking next. Password is incorrect. Give me a second. What is the password? Now clicking on next the password. I'm sorry. Should be there. My friends, if you see, I don't have a display driver. Okay, because I have done the format and do. So I get the PowerShell scripts already. Teams is ready. Office is ready. My applications are already there. All of that stuff is automatic. And just for your information, with the May month release, seems to be, for example, if I don't have it drivers, See, it says that very clearly. You're a standard user, not the device admin or administrator, so you don't have a rights to open my device manager. Try to do. So that also worked for us because we configured as the standard user. Okay, so it's fine. But if you see here, I don't have a driver for display. In a few more minutes, if you see, I don't have a display driver. In a few more minutes, the display drivers also gets installed from Intune. Whatever the drivers are available, that's gonna install. I have not done anything. It seems to be it's getting installed. It just got installed. You see, earlier it was standard. Now it got installed. Fully comes from a Microsoft store. These drivers are coming from Microsoft store. Okay, so they are actually getting tied up with. Okay, so this is how it's gonna work. So let me switch back to my primary machine. So if you can see the profile, this is the profile which we are talking about, right? So here it's a standard account and WhiteGlove is yes. Apply the device template as random with a number 1. So anywhere above 1 number, it starts give, it will give you. So we'll check on that. It's a user driven as you ADjoin. It remains everything is the same. Like, we experience the terms and license, also privacy settings we have experienced, all this, right? So let's go back to the devices and see the device type. Yeah, you see here NHYD1, the machine came. Okay, so it's also compliant. 1232. This is an old machine. The other one, this machine, I think, the machine we tried as a user driven. Yeah, there's a whole user driven based on the timestamp. Also, we can see the virtual machine which we joined, right? So this is also getting all that later point, but in that case, it was quick enough actually, right? We'll wait for the other device. Maybe I might have to just the update here also. Just the update that would show the device. Yeah, I think this is the one. Desktop one. INH27 now. It automatically become my friend. If you remember, this was the actual computer name, right? It is showing, but since the profile is assigned, it has renamed. If I click on that also, it is coming this. I can pretty sure that this is the machine. Even if you see the serial number which we imported, the Lenovo machine 20DD, the physical hardware. Okay, so it's gonna actually come up. This also will change in a minute or so to the proper computer name. Take some time. Yeah. So this is how it works, the configuration. Okay, so we tried user driven. We also tried with the pre-provisioning option. Okay, now what is pending is autopilot for existing devices. I'll demonstrate this. I'll try my best to show you. This is very simple, but before that, let's also try with the hybrid AD also, how it looks like. Okay, for hybrid AD, let me show you the concepts. If you just go to Windows Enrollment, and here you have a connector. So this is a connector that needs to be downloaded on one of the computer. Let's say I have a domain controller here. This is my domain controller. I don't like to install on my domain controller, but let's say I had a computer, just a member server, or maybe any of the member server also, that's fine. So on that machine, we can install the ODJ connector or this Intune connector. Okay, so let's actually, I don't have any other PC now. Earlier I thought to create, but we even install the AD connect also on the same machine. So let's stick to the plan here we can install. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to install here a connector. Okay, so let's add. It will ask me to download this connector. So I'll just click on download. So this gets downloaded. Where is that? I'll just say my desktop. Keep this 50 MB. So I'll simply copy to my one of the machine member server anywhere, and you can install. Installation is very straightforward. Now it got even installed on that machine. If you heard any noise, Realtek drivers also came on that machine automatically, not just the drivers, display drivers, other drivers also coming up on that machine. So it's a straightforward installation. Later point, what we do is we would actually configure the account. So I'll say configure. This is where it's going to ask for the global admin account. So I'll simply enter admin account. This is one of the pre-requirement that is also needs to be done on the machine. Okay, that's it. So what happens in the technically in the backend is once this is completed, you will be getting a service. It's like very similar to AD Connect, but it's not exactly AD Connect. If you see Intune ODG connector service, okay, this is a service which will be gets installed as part of the installation, and it will be in a running state. If you see here, the connector is successfully enrolled. Now the configuration is completed. Sooner we should be able to see here a machine with the configuration. Okay, this is just the, after a few more minutes, it will start reporting here. Okay, in the meantime, we also have to do some other configuration also. Let it takes some time, my friends, to come up here. We just installed. Now, additional thing is, I'll just close this. Additional configuration of what we have to do. So let's say you have a OU called India example. Within this, maybe example, let's say Hyderabad. I'm just taking one example. So you wanted to grant a permission. Why? If you ask me, and if you ask me why we should install this in a single word or maybe single sentence, because we will take the help with this connector to join the machines into the required OU. Meaning, uh, since we have a connector, what we do is we will grant a permission with the help of delegation for the computer account that where we installed. AD connector got installed, the ODG connector or the Intune connector got installed on a computer, right? So we'll select here the computer name. So in this case, it would be, let's see, I think this is the computer name. That's where we installed. Yeah, this is the computer name we installed. Click on next. We will be adding the permissions, computer objects, full. So this is how you normally grant it. So if you ask, what is the documentation, all of that, if you simply Google, you have all these steps mentioned in a document also. So if you ever worked with a domain join account to grant a permissions on a specific OU, whatever the permissions you give, same permissions we are giving on a computer where we have the AD Intune connector got installed. So in this case, Intune connector got installed on a machine called domain controller. So for that machine, we gave the full permissions. So post to that, let's see here, we got it. No, not it. Yeah, you see here, this is coming and active also there. So what we have done so far, I'll explain one more time. on my domain controller on a OU, we granted a permission for Intune connector installed machine. So what will happen is, let's say if I try to build a machine with the autopilot, okay, and the machine should join to my on-premises domain controller, then you mention also some uh, naming format and join to a specific OU, right? So the OU example, this is the OU. We just gave here India, the sub OU Hyderabad. So we granted top level, meaning in the down also will have a permission. So whatever the OU you mention somewhere to this machine to join into that OU, we have not done this configuration. I'll repeat once again. We have not done this configuration that this machine should go and join here. We're just preparing the infrastructure like this OU should have a permission for Intune connector. That's what we have done. So this computer will go and create the computer account here. Okay, and now what we'll do is for this machine should only go to this OU. How do we define is we define with the profiles. Okay, we'll configure with the profile saying that, hey, I have a step called domain join. Please execute this domain join with this is a domain name. This is my OU name. This is my uh, display name or kind of thing, okay, or my computer name format. Okay, I would mention these 3 steps in my domain join profile. Okay, that is pending now. We are going to do that now. But technically, you understood if I correctly explained, or if you're getting me, what I'm trying to explain, why we need this connector from a devices, Windows configuration profile, and we're going to create a new profile here with the Windows 10 or later with the templates. We have something called domain join already, right? So just say domain join this step, create. Now it will ask for the, let's say I have a OU called domain join with Hyderabad example. I'm just giving example Hyderabad. Now it will ask what is your computer name prefix. So the same format that you had within this autopilot profile, you had some formats, right? For example, maybe we can, come on, we can take the user driven one, which was worked even for us, right? If you remember, it started with a 1 number, right? This profile. So we can give the same format here, the computer prefix. Okay. Yeah, if you see here, this is more than length of 12. So I'll just say if I take these, it will accept. Okay. So I insert with a random number. Okay. Now the domain name, what is a domain name you have to enter? You should enter in a format with a fully qualified domain name. So what is my domain name in this case? My domain name is mylab.local. Okay, what is your OU? So I have a OU. I wanted to join this machine to a specific OU. So what I'll do is just say ADSI edit.msc. This is the ADSI editor. So you can just browse whatever the OU you wanted. For example, I want this machine should be part of Hyderabad example OU. So I'll simply go to the properties. I'll copy this distinction name. Okay, or just double click in the OU path. It will be in a DN name format. So I'll simply copy, paste it. Okay, now create it. Now, as I said earlier also, this is just for a specific device group. So in my case, I might end up with one for Hyderabad, one for Bangalore, one for Delhi, something like that. Okay, the groups. So that group I can assign. In my case, I'm just giving to these groups. Okay, example. Or I would actually properly, if you want me to enter properly, I would actually go to the all autopilot devices example. I would select this, configure. That's it. This step is done. So as part of the now profile creation, so if we just go to, we cannot edit the existing profiles that were already created with the autopilot. Okay, for example, I cannot edit here to hybrid ADjoin as far as I know. So if they allow, that's a great, but you see here, this is not allowed to edit. So all we have to do is we have to again create a new profile. In this case, very similar. So this is hybrid ADjoin. Okay, sorry. Here we choose user driven with hybrid ADjoin. That's it. Remaining settings are same except one, which is device name template gets grayed out. Reason being, we should apply on the complaint on the configuration profiles. Remaining steps are same. You can do even here also the WhiteGlove. You can play even standard or all of that. Okay, so you can play in this way and you can apply, but you need to have as a mandatory. You need to have that that profile. If you don't have a profile, it's not going to work. So you can assign to a specific group. That's a autopilot devices group. Then this is going to work as it is. Clear? So in this, any questions? Hybrid ADjoin. We have done this autopilot. Now, one thing is pending within this autopilot configuration, which is autopilot for existing devices. So this is so easy. This is nothing but the any of these cases, like the pre-provisioning or user driven. You can use that with a combination of SCCM. This is a very interesting one. Okay, so let me. So what we can do is we can create any of the task sequence. Let's say I want to use maybe hybrid AD join example. Simply what I'll do is I'll just go to the properties task sequence and we can change this to convert to all existing machine. Okay, so it will register if even though if the machines were already in the autopilot mode. This is one other configuration. Apart from this, save, yeah, review, save. Apart from this, you also have another configuration from the SCCM. So now I'm actually taking the scenario of autopilot for existing devices. This actually talks about SCCM. Okay, now let's say I have in my on-premises SCCM infrastructure. How I'm going to do it? So it's very simple steps. Like if you all know already SCCM task sequence, this needs a little bit of SCCM background. So I have just created one dummy task sequence. If I just open up, this is with a default setting. So how it looks like is like you start this is a general one. I've not done anything. A deploy task sequence, formatting, and then using some image, and you're gonna set the Windows settings, and then the machine will join to somewhere, and the drivers with your WMI logics you would be using. Later point, if any updates or any packages, it will be there. This is the normal task sequence, how it looks like, right? So within this, what we're going to do is we'll modify this task sequence. Okay, or in fact actually Microsoft has given ready-made for us. It actually modifies the same task sequence somewhere here, and this is where what happens is it actually, when the machine starts to OOB experience, it will try to query to autopilot server, and then if we have any target this hardware ID, for example, the hardware ID was already imported, that can be actually used and the machine can be rebuilt it. So for that, what we'll do is simply existing machines, these all will be considered as the deployment, because you are actually using the SCCM boot media to build the machine. You're not doing uh, you're not buying a new machine, right? Existing machine you're actually trying to build with the SCCM, but somewhere here we will initiate the autopilot profile. So for that we need to do some steps. So the step one, You take any of the machine, maybe a work machine or maybe a Windows 10 machine. That's also fine. You need to execute few commands to download the Autopilot profile. So what we are going to do is we will be going to this Autopilot deployment profile. We have 3 profiles, right? Out of that, whatever the profile you want to use it, we will convert this profile to a JSON format. So we convert into a JSON format. How do we do is we will be connecting with the PowerShell to Intune, and then we do all these steps. So let's do the MS Graph will be used in the backend, but before that we have to install some packages to connect. So just go to my server. Maybe we can use even, I think we have already PowerShell here, module with a proper, yeah, font is already configured. So I have actually a document which I wanted to show you. So this is the one. What we do is basically we will be executing these things, these PowerShell commands, so that the package gets downloaded. Later point will connect to to Intune with the Autopilot server. For this, we need to give the consent on behalf of organization. So we'll give the consent here, and later point you would be running these commands like a get autopilot profile that will list all the profile information like this. Then we can actually convert into a JSON format, and that file can be saved in a notepad with the extension of JSON. Otherwise, you can use these commands to even save the output with the encoding of ASCII format, the JSON file. This will be created like this, and this file will be used during the operating system deployment. So let's say we create out of that file as the uh, task sequence. I'm going to show you that. So this is a step will be automatically created for us when we create the task sequence, okay, for that file. So let's do that. The first step would be definitely to install these modules. So we will be installing on any of the machine. So these can be done on anywhere that you have a machine. It's not that SCCM, it's not domain controller. Since I have already font is configured here, I'll be executing here one by one. So the module is getting installed for Microsoft Graph. Later point we will be connecting to Microsoft Graph. So these commands has been completed. Now if you see here, connect to MS Graph, and then you would be giving your admin credential. So I'll just say connect, and I need to give my global admin permissions. So in this case, it's already signed in, so it's good that I don't need to enter password. I'll just say consent for reading these permissions with that account for that tenant basically. So now consent has been completed. Now I can use a PowerShell commands to get the profiles. So here I can actually use only this. I'll show you. Not this, this one. So this will list my all the profiles. Since I have already connected, it will be listing my all profiles. So if you see here, one is a profile name test. We have user driven profile name. Other one is hybrid ADjoin. So total 3 are there. So what we wanted is we wanted to convert them into a JSON format, right? So for that, simply we can use the command to convert. So before that, I might have to create a directory. So let's do the uh, PC call. So I just created a directory called temp. So simply I would be using a command to get it created under C:temp folder. Okay. So simply enter the profiles. So now if I just edit this command, this has been executed. Let's go to C:temp folder. Now I have a notepad application. I can open this application. So I have total 3 profiles got coming back here. So I can use whatever the profile I want. Definitely only one profile during the autopilot. You can't use 3 of them. So let's say if I want to go with the profile for hybrid ADjoin, then I would use this. So the rest of the settings will be taken out from here. Save. So I just save this file, close, and I'll simply copy this file name or the complete file. I'll come back to my SCCM server and I'll create a folder in one of the directory. Let's say, okay, let's say here, this can be maybe uh, Autopilot. Already close. So I'll just create a package, normal package without a program we would be creating. So simply I'll come here, create a package. Which consists of this path, no program needed. And later point, I would distribute this package to the required DP. Now I'll be creating a task sequence. Okay, so this is from here on, it goes in a different way. So like, let's say right click and create a task sequence. Now you have an option for deploy Windows Autopilot for existing devices. If you just choose this radio button, the options here, system preparation, which is if you work with the older version, we used to create sysprep package in the past, right? With the Windows 10, it is built in, of course, but in the past for Windows XP, we used to create the deploy.cap file, extract that, and use the sysprep tool. So this step becomes as the Windows Autopilot. So sooner or later, this gets even changed here, UI. So now I can say deploy. Okay, simply I would be choosing whatever the boot image. The steps remain same. So the package, Windows package, this is SCCM client package, your Windows updates package, your application, if you have any custom application, you can choose. This is where system preparation plays. You need to show here Windows Autopilot package. So in this case, we just created this package. I will show that. Post to that, if it is a if it is the Windows Hello kind of thing, you can choose the shutdown button. Okay, so simply choose as per your requirement, click on next. So this has been created, task sequence. Now I'll simply edit this, and if I just go here, this command is automatically coming for me with a package. So if I just go to Microsoft documentation, whatever we have done here is the same. This has been done automatically, right? And later point, you can target it, as it says that, you can target to any of the devices that you wanted. Okay, it's a normal target, like you normally deploy Windows 10, right? Same way you can target to any of the collection. It gets deployed. Clear? Okay, and you can add here, my friend, additional packages also. Let's say this is anyway, this step is for capturing, maybe during the process I've taken. Yeah, so here you can add any other packages. Let's say there's a package called maybe whatever the packages you have, you can add it. So you can increase your task sequence. So few things come from there, few things come from here also. Like that, you can design the way you want it. And in case if this you have a cloud management gateway, this also works over the internet. Okay, clear? Any questions that I can take it for the Autopilot specific Power BI, right? So for the Power BI, I have done a few things. First thing is you have to know if you're trying on your lab, you can get the trial Power BI, which is a free for 60 days. Okay, I'll show you the steps. File Power BI. Oh, I didn't copy it maybe. So you can go to this link, which will give you the complete details how to integrate. Okay. For this, there's something called a role called Intune Data Warehouse. Role needs to be granted. This can be found even in RBAC roles also. It's one additional role. Then you need to install your Power BI, either desktop version or a browser version. So in our case, we have the desktop version, which I installed already on the machine. Okay, and there is something called Intune Compliance. This is available as a store application. Okay, with a default sample data. Let's say what I'm trying to say is if you just go to the Microsoft Store on your computer, Windows 10, you have something called Intune Compliance Data Warehouse. This is published by Microsoft. You can see, so you can get this application for free with the pre-configured data, sample data like this. It will be available. Okay, so we can just get it that application. So I'm just here what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to log in with the same account so that I can launch that, basically post to the installation. So I already launched that normal my Power BI. So Power BI is very similar to your Word or Excel. You need to know, for example, if you take it Excel, not everybody knows HLOOKUP or VLOOKUP, all that uh, lookups or maybe formulas. Similarly, Power BI also, you have visualization here in the right side here, and you need to drag and drop with the required content. Okay, so in this case we can simply connect with the data with a sign in to the account that we have taken a trial. So we have taken trial for that account, which can be viewed and just entering my password. Once I enter the password, the email ID to log in. So I just enter my login ID. Once I enter the login ID, during the launch of this Intune complaint, it will ask for the account details so that it will just connect to directly to that your Power BI account, this default data. Then you will have a fancy, really fancy kind of thing. If you see here, I'm going to install this definitely. Power BI, it's going to install as an app and gives me the default reports. So you see here, these all are coming from a default with sample data. You can see here the sample data which was available. If you want to connect, you can simply connect it. But within the sample data, you can notice that thousands of devices, whatever it is, non-complaint, complaint. Later point, you can drag and drop the required data feeds. Okay, so in our case, it's a sample data only, all this data. So I can simply connect by clicking on here to connect. So this account, the account which I'm trying to connect, should have the permission on my machine. Let's say on my Intune Intune connector application. So if you see here, this is trying to connect with my data privacy level. You can set it if you want. Sign in and connect. So I'll just connect with AZadmin. So once I connected, this data will be fetched. So it takes some time to refresh and this data will go off in a minute. So now the data is gone, and now whatever the data is available, which is like, if you see the timestamp also this morning with today's date 17th 1 a.m. between. So whatever the data is there, that is actually coming up here clearly with it. data. So if you want a other type of data to be presented here, of course this is for exporting, but you can subscribe to get the alerts. You can represent with your dashboard. Okay, but again for this you need to know the Power BI application. And coming to the monitoring, yeah, you have the monitor option for applications. These are the application specific monitoring, or application specific troubleshooting can be done from monitor specific. Similarly for the devices, you have a monitor. So this is where all the additional reports that you can collect it, and some of them can be viewed here, whether it's success, failure, all of that stuff. You can you can check out. And threat status, like you have here the basically monitoring default reports can be pulled from here. Okay, if you have done any of the device actions like this, you can check out here if it is a pending or complete, like wipe or autopilot reset, for example, and this mission is completed like this. You get the proper report. And coming back to the troubleshooting, that's very tricky. I would recommend, if we get any troubleshooting problem or any user report or a device problem, then we simply select here that specific user account, and we'll try to see what all the settings are applied, not just the applications, including the policies. Everything we will be validated. And later point, if it is, let's say this is a single dashboard kind of thing, it gives you a clear idea if there's no license, or maybe some basic thing we might be missing. uh, in that case, it actually gives that specific information for the troubleshooting point of view. Coming back to the help and support, since Intune is completely cloud based, you can always raise n number of cases for free, even for the trial license. And Microsoft dedicated premium support engineer will be involved, and they are gonna help you not less than 4 hours window. So you stuck somewhere, you have some problem. It's very similar to the Office 365. So for Office 365 also, we would raise the number of cases from here with the support. Same thing goes here with the Intune. So since it's a cloud application, you can always raise a questions from here, and they would be giving you option like very similar to the Office 365, whether you want to raise a concern over the phone or email. They would be simply asking similar questions here, and then you can assign, for example, test this is cannot restore kind of thing. It will just give you the basic information. After that, if you think that you need to know contacts, let's say contact, and then give your email ID and response you want within this time. So this actually depends on the time. For example, today is a Saturday, being it is higher, but normally sometimes it will be when I've seen within 15 minutes time also they have responded uh, to you, or the email or the phone. It all depends on the requirement or the load workload. It's a dynamic basically. Okay, and you can choose your time zone also, so that during the time only they would be contacting based on that language and preferences. Hi there, we have completed this Microsoft Intune training series, and I hope you enjoy this entire course as a